Remind me, what level is this at for your off-tank play here? Is this... Okay.
Together,
Just
we
shy
are
of
strong.
3K.
Okay. That works. And you were able to see my screen, yes?
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now.
Perfect.
On my best behavior, Captain.
Heal up. 5.
Okay, so you're set up with a monkey. We'll see how the synergy goes there.
Don't be shy.
Good. Okay, so right and wrong. Right is going, I'm going to take this Fire Strike because I probably am not going to get another opportunity to use the bubble. We wouldn't use the bubble for just the Fire Strike, but it's unlikely that there's anything else we can personal before we'll have our personal back.
Don't be shy.
And
hit me.
you correctly go grab this. So now this is a worthwhile bubble. But now we're done, and we don't need to get hit by more of these. Don't need to get hit by more of these.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're tunneling a little bit on your monkey here. I totally understand why. Totally understand why you're tunneling on your monkey. Where's your monkey going to jump? I can guess this. You can probably guess this too.
Yeah, looking at this now, the Ash.
Right, he's going to jump on the Ash. So if your crosshair is either right-clicking trying to aim at the Ash or more over here, you're still going to be able to get your monkey somewhat reliably, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so right idea that it's like, hey, it is very important that I get my monkey, especially this first bubble on your monkey, because this sort of determines the trust level that you two are going to have for each other of, is your monkey actually going to play like she is a Zarya, or is she going to ignore you and you'll never be able to get charge off of her because she won't take hard jumps, right? So like, getting this first one right absolutely matters, but you're doing nothing right now. Oh, and then even worse. Okay.
Fire is on you. Go.
Okay, I'm not quite sure why we're reloading here when, speaking of reloading, when this could have easily been another right click. I also really hope you're going to go
Ready
right.
for battle.
No. Okay, so here we are. We're doing this. Your monkey is standing right behind you. If your monkey pushes again, maybe he's going to leap up top here, and if he leaps up top here, this is okay. But if I look at your team, how do I want to put this? Let's go like this.
Barrier is on you.
We do that, cool. I see my monkey. My monkey has gone back here. Where's my monkey gonna go next?
I'm actually not sure here. Just
Okay.
looking at this screen.
Okay, that's fine. So we don't know where our monkey's gonna go next. Maybe we think our monkey's gonna jump up top, in which case us going here is fine. Turns out our monkey went here. If our monkey went here, you just sort of walked past your monkey again here, and maybe you're treating your monkey like a Reinhardt and you're doing this sort of do-si-do thing where it's like, oh, I want to be able to step in front of my monkey and bubble for him so he can zap through me, whatever. That's actually not the strongest thing in the world. It's okay, but it's not the strongest thing in the world. You guys do have a Moira, so you get a little bit of stack and cleave value, but what if while your monkey was here, you were over here? Would that be better or worse than what you're doing?
Actually, looks like it could be pretty good.
Right. It gets these guys uncomfortable, like, oh, wait, we want our shield this way for the Ashe, but then the Zarya can get past the shield. We don't like that. Makes you harder to heal, means you won't get the cleave. But do you want this, like, cleavy close-range fight with this Reinhardt anyway? Right. Okay. So let's look for opportunities to off-angle a bit more, but let's see where this goes. Okay. Could absolutely send another right click over, but it would be blind, so we'll deal. That's fine.
Barrier is on you.
He's already deflecting, and you gotta be careful with this. Like, if you don't realize he's in danger, that's fine. Or if you're like, oh no, he's gonna get eliminated anyway because a monkey's zapping him, you can bubble him. But if you look at this, you're actually robbing him of value, right? Because now his deflect doesn't work anymore.
Right. I think I was scared because it looks to me like he's on fire, and I know they have a Zarya, but I do see how there's kind of
They do, in fact, have a Zarya
Sorry.
over here. In spawn. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I guess I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, no problem. No problem. So I can get that. I can absolutely get that. That's not the end of the world. just be conscious of it is what I'd say. I'm not going to say you never bubble a Genji when they're deflecting like that. I just want to, well, we'll see if you're doing it more. Because there are situations when you do it. Yes, he was on fire. Yes, that is an added reason. If you saw him start to get pinned, that would be another, of course you'd bubble in that situation. But let's see how this continues.
Barrier is on you.
It's a long time.
Barrier is on you.
Okay. Okay. So we're going to go over this. You can do this. Cool. So that Reinhardt was there, no problem. Why is that right click at the Reinhardt again, rather than at the Sim?
Wait,
Get it?
could you show it
I
again
can,
really quick?
yes. So here you are.
Barrier is on you.
We'll slow this to half speed just to make it obvious. That right click, no problem. But now you can see that there's a Sim, right?
Oh, yes.
Okay. And now you're going for another right click. And okay, maybe you thought the Lucio was going to drift out and that's why you did it. And you sort of right click thinking he's going to then drift back to the barrier, but the Reinhardt's going to go away. And you do end up connecting with the Lucio here, so maybe the Lucio was your target. It's not totally clear to me whether the Lucio was your target or the Rein was your target. But it's okay if the Lucio was your target and you thought he wouldn't be at the bubble. It looked, however, like you were potentially trying to put more barrier pressure there. Okay, you're going to stand the Lucio. Good.
Check out this
Fine.
gun.
Okay.
On the objective.
Why are we walking that?
Barrier
Okay.
activated.
So, like, we're melting him. That's good.
Check out this gun.
You're angling a little.
On the objective.
Do we still need to close on this guy? Do we still need to walk closer to this Reinhardt?
I guess no.
Okay.
Seems to.
I mean, it's not
I
the
mean,
end. Go ahead.
I mean, I do kind of want to be by the Mega, but yeah, it is dangerous to be by this Ryan for sure.
Oh yeah, I don't mind if you angle out harder over here, but getting closer to him isn't making you do more damage. It might make him a little
Yeah.
easier to follow or something, but being over here would make him even easier to follow because this is where you're worried about him going. And I don't want to get close to him because it actually potentially puts me in his Ana's line of sight. It makes it easier for him to swing on me. It potentially lets him pin me. So like my response is just, oh, do I need to angle out here or do I need to angle back here? Whatever. I just don't really feel a great need to get closer. But this is minor. We can deal.
Barrier activated. Thank you. I claim this objective.
Sure.
Go.
Push up. Yep.
Bring it.
Why?
Bring it.
Okay. So you have a decision to make here of is this good enough? You see this, and you have to decide is that going to be good enough? And that's basically a low energy Zarya, and you're choosing that, hey, if I can absorb 2 right clicks, you think that's worth? I'll deal. Fine, you got 2 of them. Now you have a decision to make. You don't have personal barrier, so you have to decide, am I going to take space without personal barrier, or am I going to sit back here?
Are you asking like what I
Yeah,
think
no,
is the
no,
best
I'm
play?
asking you. I mean, I'm asking you now. Like, you're now in a situation where you're on Zarya, and you can go, I just used personal barrier, I got a little bit of energy out of it, not a ton, and now do I want to advance without personal barrier? Do I want to advance without personal barrier, or do I want to wait here and just kind of lob right clicks from here?
I can't remember exactly what happens. I
Mhm.
think I'm kind of just spamming here, and that was maybe just the goal. Because I don't really want to, or really even need to push up without my team.
I mean, maybe you don't need to, but you are on Zarya. You do like getting aggressive in some ways because getting aggressive ahead of your team after a 1 fight lets you get more energy out of your personal bubbles because it gets you shot at, and it lets you spam right clicks harder, which is harder for them to advance into in terms of them resetting up and gets you your ult charge faster, right?
Yes.
So I wouldn't undersell pushing ahead with Zarya. In fact, you'll notice we like in pretty much no situation do you put Zarya on cart to push the cart on payload maps, for example, because you almost always want her going ahead, even though she's not the fastest person to catch people like that Genji is up there. So that's okay. It's okay to go. You're just gonna spam from here. But I think you're not going to have very much energy. Like, if we look at this, well, let's illustrate the point better. You're at 37 energy. You're at 35 energy. We go up to 52. And let's see if by the time we get up there, sure enough,
Objective A captured. New defense ready for battle. Objective B.
you have basically zero Zarya momentum from first point to second
Yeah.
point here, don't you? So you're at 10 energy. So instead, we could have decided these right clicks aren't good enough. I don't necessarily have an issue with the right clicks you took, but you could have said, no, they're not good enough, and said, you could have easily dodged those right clicks if you wanted, and then gone, I'm going to go up and push this Zarya out. And yes, could this Zarya have gotten more support from her team? She absolutely could have. But I bet she wouldn't have, and you and Genji would have been able to push her back, or when she, tried to fight you, maintain any space, then you personal her beam, and, okay, that works pretty well, and then you potentially even get up to here. And if even if someone tries to fight you up here, push you back, and you have to drop whatever, you're still going to be in line of sight of your team, to your Ana, to get heals, right?
Yeah, right.
But you'd have been able to farm right clicks better. You'd have probably been able to maintain energy better. So you'd have, my guess would be, you'd probably have another 15% ult charge, and you'd probably still be up around 50-60 energy, right?
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Right. Now, is it possible that you'd have gotten eliminated up here by doing this? Absolutely. But right now you have 10 energy, and the possibility of you getting eliminated was what? 10%? 15%?
Yeah, something like that.
Right. I mean, I'm
Makes
not
sense.
asking you to know, but you see where I'm going with this. Good.
Yeah.
Give me your best shot. Barriers on you. Go.
Unfortunate. Okay.
Definitely seeing a better play right there, although...
Go ahead.
So actually, the first thing that came to mind before I started taking a bunch of damage is actually right-clicking to that other high ground. But obviously there is some risk with
Getting
that.
here?
Yeah.
Yep, that's an option.
Just because I will take some damage from that now that I do have a little bit of charge. But that is like something I do like to do.
It's a good one.
Well, it's something where I do like the reverse of it, defense sometimes to get over to the other platform. But
Sure.
I mean, it would kind of make sense. They can't really contest me up there very easily.
Right, the Lucio's the only one who can bump you down or maybe sim TP shenanigans. So really,
Yeah.
you're pretty safe up there. There's no diva knocking you down or anything like that.
Yeah, there is just that, bit of initial damage I would take going in, which I don't know how you feel about that
Sure.
risk
So
versus
the
reward.
answer to that really is you guys just win a poke war from up here. Like, it's unusual that your Genji went down here, but if you look at your comp versus their comp, how do you feel about this? Do you feel like most of the time these guys are just going to be able to stay here and spam back at you and make you leave? Or do you feel like usually when you spam these guys a bit, they're going to fall back to positions like this and like this?
I think you cut out for a second.
Oh, sorry.
Like in the middle.
Sure. So it's a little unusual that you lost your Genji here, but if you look at both your compositions and both the map layout, if you spam from up here and your team spams from up here and your Winston doesn't go in and your Genji doesn't get eliminated, can this team stay here indefinitely and spam you, or are they going to win a spam battle and force you guys back? Or if you spam them, is more often what's going to happen going to be that they tuck over here and tuck over here?
Yeah, I think we're gonna win.
Right. Your
'Cause
high
we have
ground.
the Ash, we have
Yeah.
me decently high charge,
Yep.
we have Monkey just soft engaging.
Right, and you can let him soft engage and leave, and then go real with the next bubble. And then once these guys have pulled back here and pulled back here, that makes this jump a lot less scary, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So you can
Definitely.
grind out a bigger advantage. Now, sometimes your team is just going to go, and you have to decide, okay, if we're just rushing you, I guess I'm just rushing you. But if you want to play this slower, grind out a win because, hey, you like your poke, you've got through the Ash, they have a McCree, but you've got the Ash and you've got the high ground. Both of those help your poke. Great. Then we turn this into here, and then we turn that into a bigger thing, or we turn that into a bigger thing
Mhm.
of, okay, I've challenged you, and my monkey goes in, whatever. So that's sort of the way to use that high ground if you want. This high ground here is to sort of make it so that, yes, you'll take some damage hopping over, but you've forced these guys back where there's less pressure on you during the rotation, right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so understandable. Why are you still in the Reinhardt? So this should be instant. We look at this. That Zarya bubble is super annoying, so I'm on the Reinhardt. On the Reinhardt, as soon as that Zarya is out from behind her bubble, she's doing a little bit of off-angling here, right? So do I want to shoot at this Rhine barrier? Like, I don't get value out of shooting at this Rhine barrier, basically until the barrier is broken, right?
Yeah.
So any damage that I put on the McCree reduces incoming damage to my team. Any damage that I put on the Zarya reduces incoming damage to my team. Maybe because it eliminates them, or maybe because it makes them run for cover. Be that to the left behind cover there, or back behind their Rhine shield. But if the Zarya is behind her Rhine shield, she's generally speaking going to do less damage to your team than if she's off-angling a little bit from the Rhine like this. Yes?
Yeah.
Cool. So we want to flick this damage over faster. And I know she was bubbled before, but we want to flick this damage over now that she's not. And instead, you're pretty hard staying on that. You're also reopening this angle. Like, we definitely had the ability to continue to keep this closed, given that we knew we were going into a reload here. Good. Unfortunate. Okay, we'll do. It was a bad engage. You guys were down your Genji. We could have target swapped better to put more pressure on that enemy, but not a big deal.
Perseverance is the key.
Yeah, I think we were kind of just planning on going back in with ults
Yep.
once that Genji died.
Yeah, but you're Zarya. You don't like to get reset. That's energy.
Yeah, definitely.
From Russia with love.
Ask your monkey for a soft dive? No? Okay, there you go.
Get in there.
Okay.
Don't be shy.
Why are we now
Hit me.
dropping? Like, are you just worried about the Kree follow-up now? Why are we dropping and circling back over here?
I'm not entirely sure
Okay. Like,
what
maybe you're
my
afraid of...
thought process was in the moment.
Okay. Because, like, I still like where you are. You're going to have the high ground. You can absolutely, you know, if you need to bubble your coalescing Moira, who's got a nano, great. Well, step over here and do it. Maybe you're worried the Grav is going to pull you in or something, but this, you can absolutely get her from here. So this was a little weird, but okay. Maybe you were
I
afraid of the high
definitely
noon, which
tried.
already
I think
blocked
I
it.
just like missed or something. Like I just didn't react quick enough
Okay.
when I hovered over her. I really don't know. Like
Oh, it looked like you were coming around here to get her, but I just felt like, why not just
I
get
think
her?
I did that because I didn't get her the first time. Like I
Ah,
think I was trying to get her while I was on the high ground. Um, why I dropped? It's not. I don't remember what my thought process was in the moment. Maybe I was just slow reacting to the Kree shooting or
sure.
something. I don't know.
Okay.
That's just my best guess.
Okay. Oh boy. Oh boy, we're reloading in his face. So here you are. You're doing this, he hurts, he's scary. You're trying to jump, hoping that he won't be able to hit you. This actually makes you easier to hit, and I'm going to show you this from his perspective, just so that it's obvious to you. Can you control where you're going right now?
No.
So it's really easy for him to sort of be like, oh, you're jumping in an arc, and I know you can't see my mouse right now, but oh, he knows exactly where you're going, and it's like guaranteed damage. This isn't like he has to hit a flick. This is just like he gets to track you quite easily, predictively, because he knows basically exactly where you're falling. And then we're going to continue. Now, his aim sucks, but that time he's choosing to instead predict with a right click. The same way you probably do this sometimes. You probably right-click enemies to knock them up a little bit to make them easier to track on the way down, right?
Yeah.
And you're jumping for him, like making that even easy. You get it. You get it.
Yeah,
Then we go back to you, and you sort of went here, and you doubled back to the right, and you stayed to the right here. Like, we actually wanted to full close this left, didn't we? Because if we full close this left, it takes him time to catch up going around the corner, and then that hides more of our reload, right?
Well, then I can't ego the Zarya.
Oh. But the thing is, you still can, because she's going to be like, oh, wait, no, I want to get him, I want to get him, I want to get him. And then you get an extra anti-heal, and he walks right into you as you've got a full clip again. That's how you really ego the Zarya, but okay.
Barrier activated.
Sure.
Maximum charge. You're covered.
Okay.
I'm seeing the problem.
What's the problem?
I'm not taking the broken high ground.
You were not taking the broken high ground. I don't like that. I could be okay if you were here specifically because you were trying to get spammed. But do you need to get spammed right now?
No.
Right.
Promising.
Oh, this is an interesting push timing. Interesting. Interesting. Okay, do you think you can maintain this? I feel like these guys could punish you if they realize what's going on.
Realistically, I think we win this fight, but should I do it? Probably not.
Okay, okay. So I was good with you here. I'd be good with you up here. Maybe I can even handle you here. This, on the other hand, is pretty aggressive for a team that's not quite ready to push yet. And I don't care that much about pre-clearing a turret, if that was your plan.
Maximum charge.
Oh, are you going to go for the aggressive off angle from the left?
I think I was clearing
Thinking
that.
about it? Okay.
I thought it would have been smart for them to do that.
Yeah.
To push me out, but they didn't. I mean, they could have just come around on the left and or like in front of me and shot me. I don't know what they were doing.
True. It is true. Okay, do you still need to be here? No? Okay.
Onward to victory. I am on fire. Everyone follow me.
Like, I don't know why we win this fight. Like, looking at this, what we do.
Well,
Irresistible.
I mean, we can go back in terms of why you win this fight is in some ways they didn't push you out early when they had a chance here. Your monkey then goes in. You do get a bubble there that enables him, and then we're going to have a grab and a dragon. Now, it's not like it's a huge grab by any means, but if you throw grab, dragon, and primal at a team, and they throw nothing back at you, and they let you pre-stage positions, the fight generally is going to go well for them, right?
Everyone, on the objective. No one can hide from my sight. Onward to victory. I am on fire. Everyone follow me. I claim this objective.
Sure.
Into position. I sight the enemy. Ready for battle.
Sure.
Double. Double.
Okay. There's the priest spam. Okay. Let's take a look at how this looks on round 2. Is this more Zarya? Okay, then we won't do Zarya summary. Yep.
Attackers in.
Yeah, I think I go Devo for 3 and 4.
Okay.
I shouldn't be surprised at such a narrow opinion coming from a genius of
Okay, you've still
Or
got
it
your...
might be later this round. I can't remember.
Sure.
1. Attackers incoming.
Got yourself some
Defend
high ground,
objective A.
but they have a empty base.
Get in there.
Probably not.
Yeah.
Okay, you see it. Good.
Get in there.
I do think that in the moment I thought they were gonna try to punish him more. But
Sure, sure.
I think it's because I couldn't really see all their rotations. They could have been hugging that side of the building and I just didn't see. But
Okay.
it was also just a kind of a one of those like stress reactions. Like I just thought I needed to make a play. But maybe I
Yeah.
just need to slow down there.
Well, I mean, some of it is slowing down. Some of it is more just in the territory of like you sort of know when you want to bubble your monkey in general. You want to bubble your monkey when he's going in. Sometimes you're going to bubble your monkey when he's getting pushed, but most of the time you're bubbling your monkey more when he's going in. And he wasn't really going in. His bubble wasn't broken. It wasn't before he deployed his bubble. There just wasn't enough there. You know what I'm saying? Like, yes, it's possible he's getting pushed, but you want to be in this situation where that's not really bubbling your monkey when he's getting pushed isn't your default, because ideally you guys should be synced up in a way where he's basically going in every time your bubble's available to give you the opportunity to get value and so he can get value, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So like it's not wrong to bubble him if he does get pushed, it's just it's not a situation that should be allowed to happen very often, so it shouldn't be the first place your brain goes. Why?
I see the problem.
Good. Why are we still in Rhine? Now we can be on Rhine. Why?
Oh no.
Double, triple kill.
Okay.
Barrier activated.
I mean, it's not the end of the world if you bubble now because you are going to finish her, but you don't see a sleep dart. You're not low on health. Like, you don't see her dropping her weapon to throw a sleep, a nade, etc. It's not the end of the world to do this here because you're already bullying her. She's already low enough health. But you're not going to get anything out of this, and you might want that bubble for the next opponent, if there was one. No, actually, she didn't go down fast enough.
I am at the top of my game.
Like, at that point, you're not in energy mode bubble, you're in dual mode bubble, and that wasn't a very good dueling bubble.
I pass this wall.
Why is that not getting shallower? Okay. So these right clicks make sense. They're right where people show up. Now are you trying to get right clicks over the Rhine shield, or are you still trying to get right clicks that they'd walk into?
Are you asking for thought process or what I like should be doing?
I'm asking for your thought process.
I think I'm just trying to throw bombs where people are walking into.
Okay, this would probably be lower then, right? Because, like, you were in a situation where it absolutely made sense before people rounded the corner to have right clicks end up right here, effectively. That made sense. But now that they're advancing, your right clicks are going to be kind of high for that. They're going to hit the top of this Rhine shield. If anything, I want to continue to put them where these guys are walking so that if Rhine lowers his shield to try and preserve shield or something like that, it definitely hits him and it doesn't go over his shoulder type thing. Unless I'm intentionally trying to throw it over his shield to get people behind him, which I think is going to be... Now perhaps that's doable, but that probably wasn't doable in those last couple shots, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, yeah, that reload. I mean, you can do this. I don't mind shooting the Ana here.
That's all you've got.
But I'm probably happier to just be like, why open the angle and fight all these things at once when I can just sit back here and sort of go, oh, look, it's me and Hanzo type thing, right? Like, if I push here, everyone can deal with me. And yes, I would love to hurt their Ana, but do I love to hurt their Ana that much more than their Hanzo?
No, that's a really good point.
Okay, so let's try and limit the number of enemies that, are on our screen, can shoot at us, if we can only shoot at one of them at a time. And again, if you absolutely needed the Ana here, that'd be different, but you don't. And in doing this, you sort of force yourself to drop. You're in a bad situation. You give me a bubble that I absolutely hate. I'm sure you're worried about the hook.
I see him looking at me.
I get it. I get it. That 51 ammo reload. Good. Good. Load, fine. Wow, she walked into that. Okay. Is anyone hitting you yet?
No.
Okay. Good dodge. Less good reload. Okay.
Get in there. Ready for battle. That's more like it.
Okay. I'd have probably stayed point and contributed a right click to the high ground where Ana is now, but that's okay.
It was my teammate that called for that. Just saying that.
Okay. Okay. Here we are. There's a dragon. Okay. So here we are. There's a dragon. What are you bubbling?
I think that I was expecting to be in Hanzo's dragon, but I don't totally remember.
Okay. Okay. Because maybe if it's the dragon, that makes sense. I'm worried that that's not right, but it makes sense. I'm worried that you're bubbling because you're about to round this corner, and we definitely don't need to pre-bubble when we round this corner, when we've still got our 400 HP.
Okay.
But, okay. Good thing we're reloading with this sim in our face. Okay.
This fight is not over.
60 seconds remaining.
Okay. You got a little greedy, but really, like,
Yeah.
you hear the hog, you don't react quite in time, not a big deal.
30 seconds remaining. 10
Okay.
seconds remaining.
So I think you do play D.Va for the rest of this match. So we are... maybe we'll let this point finish so that we don't have the clicky noise before we talk about it.
10 seconds remaining.
Another victory! Just a little longer.
Okay,
Objective lost.
so we've seen your Zarya play. I'm not going to say that that's all of your Zarya play ever, but we've now seen round and a half of your Zarya play. And
Yep.
there's a couple things that jump out at me. If they don't jump out at you, that's perfectly fine. If you saw different things, that's perfectly fine. I'm not going to let you go wrong here. You will walk out of this with some important things to work on your Zarya. But based on what you saw in that play as we reviewed it together, what looks like areas of potential improvement for your Zarya?
Well, the big one was reloading.
Okay,
Something I had not noticed with my play before.
sure,
And uh, honestly think maybe it's a new thing. So if we can catch that now, that'd probably be
absolutely.
impactful. Um, so I mean, it's a little more general, but just like kind of understanding when I need to bubble. Like
So that's a pretty big topic. So let's try and make that
yeah,
more narrow because you'll never be able to work on that. If it's just like I need to bubble better, is like your
it
brain won't do anything with that. Go ahead.
it is more like with the. I mean, there definitely were some overall just like bad bubbles,
Hmm.
but I think there are some instances where it's more like the so too many pre-bubbles,
Yeah.
um, and then um, I think just like mistimings.
Were the pre-bubbles a bigger issue for using them on your teammates or for using them on yourself?
Um, I think using them on myself
Hmm.
to like open angles. Um,
Right. So
I think
you,
if anything, I was bubbling teammates late.
except for the one Winston one, but yeah.
Wait, which one? The one
Um.
where he was like on the truck?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So I would say those are the two places I'd have taken you overall in terms of yes, we've got reloads to think about, and that if that's a new issue, that's good because it means it'll be easier to get rid of. But we want to be conscious about when we're reloading. We're reloading when we don't have an enemy that's within our line of sight, and we shouldn't have an enemy that's within our line of sight. Maybe because we're too low on resources, health, etc. So, we're doing we can't open the angle to shoot at people, or there's nothing there because all the enemies are behind line of sight and we don't expect them to show up in line of sight in the time it would take us to do 1 to 2 right clicks. And you can sort of think of it like that. Early reloads are generally costing you 1.5, 2 right clicks. And even if you don't hit with every right click, with every spam right click out there, that still adds up when you mix those in, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So we want to be a little bit more conscious of that. Try to really pay attention, catch yourself when you're doing it. If you're really having trouble of working it out of your system, because again, there's times when it's absolutely appropriate to reload. Don't be like, "Oh, I can never press the reload button." It's absolutely appropriate, but it's appropriate when there's not an enemy to shoot at and there shouldn't be an enemy to shoot at because like you've chosen to close the angle
Got
because
it.
it's scared. It shouldn't be a case though of like, "Oh, there's not an enemy to shoot at because I just turned away because I'm scared." Like, well, they can still see you even if you can't see them. And you also shouldn't be like, I sent 2 right clicks out, I'm full health. Now let me close the angle to reload. Like, we don't want to do that either. But okay, that's reloads. When it gets to your bubbles, I really do want you to remember that Zarya's kit is built the way it is for a reason. Zarya has half of her health as health, and she has half of her health as shields. And you're not going to be like, oh, I'm counting on my shields to regenerate on their own or anything. But you can sort of think of that as like a symbolistic thing, where it's like, hey, the point is you should really either already be taking damage when that bubble goes up. That's why you have that shield health like that, or it should be two parry specific things, right? Like, oh, here's the sleep dart, or oh, here's the hook, etc. It shouldn't be, I'm opening this to not let you hook, to not let you sleep. It should really be, I'm doing this either when I I get aggressive and I go bully you when I have my bubble available. I go finish off the half health Anna when I have my bubble available. But then I don't just bubble immediately. I bubble when I actually am being put under some pressure. And I know I can finish her off because I have the bubble, but I don't use my bubble to finish her off. And it would be the same thing for really, if you're trying to finish off the other Zarya. You don't go finish off the Zarya with your bubble. You finish off the Zarya because you have your bubble available. And if you get her down to a third health and then you go down to half health, 60% health, 70% health, whatever, and you pop your bubble because she's hitting you hard, that's totally fine, but by the time your bubble's over, you're kind of already on your way out when the bubble's over, right?
Right.
So you've really got to be thinking about this bubble either as I'm either parrying an ability or I'm parrying when the damage is already coming in. But I want you to sort of think of it like that, not as I'm pushing you, and as I'm pushing you, I'm going to bubble type thing. Like, no, you better already be shooting at me when I bubble, or I better know, that I'm blocking a sleep dart, a nade, a hook, a fire strike, and a fair rocket that I see coming at me, etc. Does that sort of make sense?
No, absolutely, it does.
Okay. And then we could talk about more stuff on your Zarya. We could talk about, hey, there's a little bit more to do in terms of your target selection. There's a little bit more to do in terms of how you manage the high ground. You're pushing up between fights is important. Don't get me wrong. There's more that we could talk about on those, but these two things are going to be the most bang for your buck right now. So if you don't have questions on those, let's move on to your diva.
All right, we can move on.
Perfect.
Enemies detected.
Okay.
Enemies detected.
Who are you finishing off with these boosters? Who gave you an opening to assassinate them? Who are you protecting with these boosters? What high ground are you taking with these boosters? What are these boosters for?
I mean, based on what I just saw, for tunneling in on a Moira.
Right, but a Moira that's not discorded, still has
Mhm.
fade. You see where I'm
Mhm.
going here, where it's like there
Yeah,
wasn't
yeah,
an opening on this Moira. Okay.
yeah.
Okay. So if you were going to dive this Moira, you would have to finish these boosters up here, because you could be going, I'm boostering to take high ground, and that has some value. And then I can help my Winston fight this soldier, and I can be
Mhm.
like, hey, or I can deny this soldier the ability to farm my team, which has some value while my team is fighting this. The timing isn't really right for that, but it's something. Like if you went, hey, I'm doing this, which is sort of worthless, but I'm just doing it on the way to finish it to taking high ground with these boosters, I would have no objection. But that is not what we did, is it? Like if we could have gotten
Yeah.
her boost or her fade for free while taking high ground, good play. But this, not so good a play. Oh boy. Oh boy. Okay. So here we are. We unfortunately were sort of DMing nothing there. Now we go here and maybe we're thinking, hey, I was going to DM that, but why are we still holding this DM? Like, if we look at this, sure, it was weak DM, but it was just the first tick of DM, I'll live. Sure, you're DMing to try to block a hook follow-up. Why are you still holding DM? Why are you still holding DM? Why are you still holding DM? Why did we drain the second half of our DM?
There's really no good reason. I
Right.
mean,
So,
right
like,
now I'm seeing my boosters off cooldown, and
sure,
thinking
but
that,
even if they weren't, you weren't actually blocking anything meaningful with DM. No one was in serious danger, right? Like the
yeah,
the second tick, effectively, we can break your DM into 4 ticks, and the first tick we'll just call scouting. It was wrong, but we'll just call it that. The second tick potentially was a legitimate DM of whether you got the timing right or not. You're trying to protect your Moira who got hooked, etc. But then that last half of DM just got spent on absolutely nothing. So it's sort of like, wait a
mhm,
second. And it wasn't like, oh, I DM'd so they stopped shooting or something like that. Like, there was nothing meaningful to DM. There wasn't a hog right click to grab. There was a Moira right click. The Moira orb was already past you, so you weren't grabbing that. You see where I'm going with this, right?
yeah,
Okay. So we want to be more conscious in that. Like, I don't mind if that first tick of DM gets used a little scouty, gets used when you're, checking the angle and you don't want to suddenly get burst down because it does recover. And obviously, I don't mind blocking a hook. But I do mind when we just continue to hold DM into nothing. That's going to cost us. Okay. So you just used boosters, and you ended up here. Would it have been better to end up here?
Yeah.
Okay. You don't get pinned on high ground nearly as often.
Yeah.
The dragon consume you. Let the dragon
Okay. This is a little weird. I don't know why your crosshair's on the ground. I don't know why we're not shooting at McCree. Yeah, I don't know why we're not shooting at Cree. Okay. So, not the end of the...
just hoping to be sneaky.
I get it, but like... Yeah. Oh well. Oh well.
Ready for battle. Ready for battle.
I guess I
my-
just had
my
a little
thinking
more
is,
respect for
like-
your opponent than that.
My thinking is, you know, if I reveal myself, maybe I die before I even am able to touch.
Okay.
'Cause I
Okay.
think I might have been the only person who could.
Yeah, but that blaster didn't like start going full throttle after you touched either. Not that you touched for
True,
very long.
true.
Attackers
Yeah.
incoming. Defend objective A.
And even if you were trying to be sneaky, you'd have trained your crosshair in the right place. Because if he turns and sees you, you want to be shooting instantly, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so here you are. Yeah, okay. Probably just micro into that. It's a spammy enough ability to use, but that's fine.
Someone was calling that like someone was still in.
Ah,
I'm like looking around.
sure, sure.
They were wrong, but
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
fine.
How dare they?
No.
60 seconds.
No.
Okay.
60 seconds remaining.
Okay. They bailed you out all right. I probably don't retreat like this. So, you go here. You got him. Congrats. That is a long retreat that you've got to make. You've got to retreat from here to here. Your DM's not going to hold out, and your boosters aren't going to come back either, are they? Like, the monkey bubble ends up getting you, but that's not usually a resource I'd count on getting you, and you're trying to retreat to effectively here before you're safe, right?
Mhm.
So, here's the thing. What if you instead had followed this through and just let yourself be over here? Now their backline can't threaten you without rounding the corner, and their backline is in this situation where they're walking into your Hanzo. They're walking into your backline being able to threaten them in order for them to sort of turn and threaten you. You see how that works?
Yeah.
Okay. So I would have much preferred you post out here. Do you have safety then? Like if if they get here, there's nothing for you to do. You're just stuck. Still better because their backline has to expose themselves to your backline before their backline can get you, which is better than this where you just have no control over whether you save your mech or not, and you don't really have control over whether you save your mech or not here either, but you're more likely to trade favorably. Here, they're able to shoot into you or your team. Like all of the things that they have to pay attention to are in the same direction, except Torb.
Mhm.
And we'd have much preferred to make them think about it this way, where Torb shoots them in the back, where you guys shoot them
Yeah.
in the side. You got it.
very hot.
Time to raise my.
Okay. Should you boost her now, or should you not boost her now?
If you want my thought process, I'm thinking they're like about to round the corner and start shooting at me, and I
Sure.
need health. Um, and we just lost the healer. But uh, it definitely isn't the highest value booster. But I
Where
think
would
I
you
just
go if
didn't
you used a booster?
onto high ground, perhaps.
That sounds pretty good. That sounds pretty good to me. I mean, you could still get this health back with a booster. You could actually get this health back and get to high ground. Booster will get you pretty far. But yeah, even just going to high ground, I would like that. We instead
Time to raise my APM.
don't get high ground, and they've already rounded the corner on us.
It looks like maybe I tried. I don't know. Like, did I
Yeah,
cancel booster?
No, I don't think you canceled. I just think you weren't quite
Okay.
efficient enough with your pathing. Like, if we go here. No, you did cancel, actually. Yeah, you had a quarter of that left.
Yeah.
Diva. Nerf this. Diva.
Okay. Okay.
Nerf this.
There we go. We knew you were going to get that McCree with the Bunny Blaster someday. Okay.
Enemy down.
So, I suppose that worked out about as well as you could have expected.
Remaining.
Yeah, okay.
Enemy down.
Heroes never die.
Better. Go touch point? Okay.
I found you.
30 seconds remaining. New defense point. Objective B.
Patched up. Let me get you patched up.
Do you have a feel for where his team is? Nah, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
Get through this.
10 seconds
Okay. I guess I'll let that go. Okay.
ATM 좀 올려볼까?
Sure.
Kill streak.
Still need you.
Work with that.
Ready for battle. Ready for battle. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Attacker.
Time to raise my APM.
Defend objective A.
Are you trying to bait bubble by making those shallow, or is that just you're just not adjusting for the fact that they're going to be retreating?
I think I'm just not adjusting.
Okay.
I'm under attack.
Get through this.
That ground is appreciating those micro missiles.
I'm gonna have to shoot you down.
So why did we drop? Did you want to drop here? Did you feel like that was value, or is this just you sort of slid off?
It's hard to say.
Okay.
I
I would not have recommended dropping here, but that's okay.
think I was trying
Shoot
to
you down.
like walk a really tight
Sure.
line, so
Defense matrix activated. Taking off.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough. Like she was weak enough if it was a chaotic fight for you to do that play, but there wasn't a chaotic fight going on.
Time to
Sure.
raise my APM.
I don't need to keep spending that. So I go here.
Time to raise
I've
my
activated a
APM.
tick of DM to eat this. Why did I just spend 2/3 of my DM when a quarter did the job? Like, did you get more out of spending more there? Like, yes,
No.
you did absorb a little more damage, but like, it didn't really help your Torb there, right?
no.
Okay.
APM 좀 올려볼까? Get through this.
Okay. Sure. Okay. So we're doing this. Yeah, that's roughly spent correctly.
No nerf this.
Okay.
Suiting up. 날려간다.
So he's gonna shatter. Okay. So generally, when he shatters like this, he's gonna be responsible for about 50% or so of his own follow-up. So booping him around and not letting him follow up, because your team isn't gonna be shattered for very long, is gonna be pretty high value. He's also weak, so like I see even more reason to boop into him here. So generally we look, obviously we don't want to get pinned, but if we can like booster into the side of him when he shatters like this, that's generally going to be pretty good for us, right?
Okay.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Enemy down.
Thanks. Hey,
60 seconds remaining.
look out, world!
I'm
I'm
on
on a
fire.
rampage.
Objective A
We've
captured.
got one.
New defense point. Objective B.
Help me. Allow me to repair the damage.
I don't know why you start your micro quite here. Not the end of the world. Like, it's good to shoot at her to get the personal bubble out. That's great. I don't know why we're now going all in on her. Like, if she was at half health or lower than half health, maybe we'd now go in all in on her, especially if she was isolated. But I don't see enough other people attacking her, nor do I see her isolated in some way where you can micro and boost her into her and just finish her. So this is a little weird that you're going for the micro missiles after her bubble is activated here. We'd rather use that either after it's gone or potentially to try to finish her off, like if she was weaker when she'd used that bubble. Okay. Angled out, good. Sure.
Maybe next time.
Just leave.
Taking off.
No.
60 seconds.
Defense matrix
We have to be
activated.
here while this is happening, even if Zarya is zapping us. But now the Blossom is over, right? And we don't really have more DM to spend.
Mhm.
So we're going to go back to high ground, right? rather than try to finish this Reaper. Like we want the Reaper to get eliminated, it's true, but like when we look at sort of the trade here, we think we're better than this Reaper because we're trying to climb the ladder, so we're going to make sure we survive over eliminating him, right?
Got it. Yeah.
Okay.
다시 한판 해보자고.
Widowmaker here.
30 seconds.
There's no way I'm losing. Attack! Routing tower. Forward barrier.
Oh, almost. So she just made a huge mistake right here. You see how separated she is from her team?
Yeah.
And do you know what play you can do here that would be amazing?
I mean, I could booster her in
Right,
to.
exactly.
I
Yeah.
think she's already like 2 out of position. And I'm a little worried about taking the extra spam, but I'm also not sure if that was my exact thought process. But
Okay, that's fine. I can understand as long as you're thinking about it. I can live with it. Don't get me wrong. I actually think you're fine here. You've basically got full health. You've got a bunch of armor. You can just go, hey, I'm gonna boost her and knock her a little bit more in, and you're gonna continue right on through. You're not gonna like stay behind her. Though that would be great. You're gonna continue right
okay.
on through and be like, now I'm shooting her from the side, and we knocked her a little bit out. Maybe you're really worried about your Winston's life. Maybe that's why you didn't do it. You wanted to give them a chance to stabilize on Winston, and you figured we're still going to get her. Maybe that's what's going on there. But okay. Oh, it looks so juicy. If we do get her, good.
Remaining.
Okay. How do you feel about this one in hindsight? It happened. We're not too worried about it. This isn't like, oh my god, your plays were awful or anything like that. But how do you feel about this one in hindsight?
Um, on one hand, I don't think I get much with it. Um, but also don't know how else that I could have used it. So
Sure,
it's
sure.
not that I feel good about it, it's just that I don't know how to feel bad about it.
Right. Well, it's okay. That's okay. So generally, what we're looking for is your team in? Is your team fighting right now? Like they just took out Zarya, but Zarya was wildly out of position. Is your monkey in? Does your Kree like your Kree is maybe fighting, but your tank, your main tank, hasn't like started the fight, has he? He's not like here zapping down on people, here zapping down on people, here cleaving people. Like he's not really in, is he?
No.
Okay. And then your other DPS are sort of relevant. I mean, she's kind of relevant. He's trying to make himself relevant, but like this fight isn't real yet. Like Reinhardt isn't swinging where he has to pick between do I turn and shield this self-destruct or do I swing at the thing I'm swinging at. He's not the opponents aren't having to worry about do we run away from the Winston or do we run away from the self-destruct. And that's sort of what you want with your self-destructs. Like if you throw a self-destruct in, what this self-destruct is going to do, and you not getting anyone here doesn't surprise me, is that it's going to cause these people to potentially have to use their abilities and rotate some combination of those two things to survive against the self-destruct. But is your team going to be able to take them down while they're dealing with the self-destruct or take them down because they don't have the abilities? Or is what your team gets out of this more likely to be, well, your team gets to rotate in from the choke to the actual battleground of the point?
Um,
And if that didn't make
I'm
sense,
not.
just let me know.
I kind of lost it.
Sure, totally fine.
But I
So
also know that I don't know the answer.
totally fine. Totally fine. So what we're looking at here is this self-destruct is likely to make your opponents retreat a little, potentially use barrier to prevent against it. Maybe they'll use wraith, whatever. And that's cool. If your opponents don't have wraith and their barrier breaks and maybe Lucio uses amp speed, if your team then immediately fights them while they're down those things, even though your self-destruct didn't get eliminations, your team is going to be in a lot better shape if the other team doesn't have amp, wraith, or Rhine shield. Does that sound right?
Yeah. No,
Okay.
absolutely. Yeah.
So that would be
Just drains
fantastic.
resources.
Absolutely. The problem is cooldowns come back pretty fast, barriers come back pretty fast, and your team isn't really in yet. Your team is going to be able to rotate in during this self-destruct perhaps, but they're not like already in. So these guys are going to get to recover some of those cooldowns, resources that they use. What this self-destruct is really getting your team is maybe a few second lead on cooldowns, but what it's really getting your team is it's making it easier for them to get through this choke and into this actual fight. Tracer's going to think about, oh, I have to dodge this self-destruct. It's easier for your Kree to walk in. Reinhardt, peels back over here, and it's easier for your Winston to jump up here, whatever the case may be. So, your team isn't going to get nothing out of this self-destruct, but what they're mostly going to get is a rotation into where they actually want to take the fight. And that's, again, not zero. It's not nothing. But what's generally better for us is if we use an ult to get in to rotate successfully, and we assume the opponents have the same number of ults, they're then going to be able to use an ult while we're actually fighting, and they're probably going to get more out of that, because you guys are going to have to use DM, Flashbang, Winston Bubble to deal with their ult, right?
Yeah.
And then there, you guys are going to be like, oh shoot, you guys got to use this during the fight. So it's not nothing to use an ult to get in like this, but it's generally stronger if we can use an ult, like self-destruct, sort of while the fight is happening. Not because we necessarily expect self-destruct to get eliminations, though it's fine if it does, but because it's then going to cause them, if this Reinhardt has to go, oh shoot, let me turn around, let me figure out where the self-destruct is going to be and block it, well, then your McCree gets to go, even if he doesn't flash him to bake it so that the self-destruct gets him, your McCree gets to shoot him in the back while he's doing that. Whereas right now, your McCree's not going to get to do that, right? Because
Right.
this fight isn't really real yet. So I'd like your timing for these self-destructs. If you have to use a self-destruct because, hey, you have to remech, so be it. If you have to use a self-destruct because you want to make sure that the self-destruct gets thrown because your mech is low HP and you're out of DM and things like that, and you're just like, hey, I need a new mech, but I'd rather than just, queuing it when I'm actually out of health, throw it so that it has a chance of getting someone, so be it. But mostly, if you're using these self-destructs, you want them to sort of be while the fight is happening. Like, early in when the fight is happening is fine. Later is actually fine too, but early in when the fight is happening is fine. But we'd prefer not to use it to rotate in. It's a little too good of an ult for that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And you see Winston does jump in during it. And we sort of get to fight. We sort of get to fight while they're not doing things now. But it would have been even stronger if that had been just even a second later. Like, you can think of it as we use that self-destruct the same way we might use a beat to engage. And do you really want to use a beat to engage?
No.
You'd prefer to use the beat like a couple seconds in, right? Because that almost like...
Mm-hmm.
Okay, perfect. Same thing.
Yeah.
I'm taking the point.
Cool. That's a Reaper.
What?
That's a Reaper, and you have full DM, and you're just like, no, I'm going to eliminate you. How many of your friends are here?
I mean, like, all of them.
Right. So, like, it's way more important that we don't let this Reaper do damage than it is that we eliminate him, right?
Yeah. I mean, I guess I'm just seeing, like, the bubble as,
Okay.
like,
But now
kind
he's
of...
inside the bubble, right?
Yeah. I also can't see the Winston on my screen, so maybe I'm thinking that he is, like, dancing it.
Okay. Okay. Now, you guys are fine, again, in part because it's a 6v1. And if you were super worried about some ult that might slip past if you DM'd that Reaper, that would be fine. But I would just look at this and say, hey, let's not give the chance for this to go wrong. Like, you know that your team is going to take care of that Reaper probably inside the time that your DM is up. So I'd have said once he was inside the bubble, it was probably worth DMing him to not let him get value. Really, when you're engaging against a Reaper, not letting him get value for the early seconds is pretty huge. But that's okay. Okay, so we got him. We talked a fair amount about your Zarya, though we can certainly go back to that if you have more questions now that we're at the end. Then we get into your D.Va. And for your D.Va, there's a couple places we can go. I'm not going to let you off the hook without talking about DM because your DM use is wasteful, but I don't want you to be like, oh, I just have to get DM perfect, etc. Because getting DM perfect is kind of like getting shot selection perfect, where it's like, why was this left click not here? Why was this right click not here? Why was this, shot, if you're Anna, a heal here rather than a damage shot there, which would have been better. Like, that's something that you need to improve on forever, but we do have some work to do there. Like, I want you to go, hey, when I DM something, I am DMing. How do I want to put this? When you're using your DM, I do want you to go, if I opened my DM to eat something like a fire strike, I'm not then just going to hold it open. I'm going to continue to use it. We have a lot of DMs, or if I DM'd to stop a Roadhog from hooking someone with a thing, once he's fired his shot, I've got to have a reason to continue DMing. I'd like you to be faster to flick your DMs off, is really where I'm going with this. Like, you should still have cues that cause you to flick your DM on, a fire strike, a Roadhog hook, obviously a Reaper. Those things can cause you to flick a DM on, but I want you to be faster to flick DM off. That would be less true with the Reaper, but that's going to be true when there's events that you need to eat, and you either ate them or you didn't. Like, maybe you tried to eat a fire strike and you missed it or whatever. I don't care. It's gone. It's over. We don't keep DMing to try to salvage the situation or something like that. That's not really a thing that can be done. So I want you to get faster at flicking the DM off. The on for the event is fine, but turn it off so that you then have the option to bring it back in sooner, because we're spending a fair amount on nothing. So that's one thing that I'm going to want you to work on D.Va. We could certainly talk a little bit more about high ground. You use your boosters for assassination a fair amount. We could talk a little bit more about high ground control, but that's not wildly off. You sometimes miss that, sometimes get it. I'd like you to do a little more with high ground. We obviously saw the event over here with Moira. We saw the one over here where you canceled rather than taking the high ground. Really, it was kind of too late already. We'd wanted you to take the high ground even half a second earlier so that you could be punishing these guys a little more as they were playing the corner. There's more that we could talk about with that. But I actually think what's going to be more important is getting a proper understanding of your self-destruct. We did see a ton of self-destructs, but I probably would say that's the more important concept to understand. As part of the engage can be okay, but we'd really prefer to delay it even just a second or two there. We'd really prefer to use it. We can think of self-destruct actually a lot like a sound barrier, where it's like, oh shoot, our team needs cover while something is happening. You could use it as hey, the opponents need to pay attention to self-destruct, so they're not paying attention to our team, or the opponents are going to use their resources to battle or to survive the self-destruct, so they're not free there. I would probably consider that a bigger thing in terms of getting value out of D.Va than where you are on high ground, because your high ground is mixed right now. There's more that could be done there. We could also talk about, hey, some weird stuff that you did with micro missiles into Zarya when she wasn't really diveable, she wasn't really finishable. I think you're just trying to will her to be eliminated. We saw that a little on first and second, and she is absolutely a diveable and an eliminatable target when you see that bubble come out when she's at half health. We're not going to, when she's a little separated or the fight is chaotic enough. You can't just dive her solo when the rest of her team isn't really busy fighting yet, if that makes sense. But again, my focus for her would be, let's really get faster about flicking off that DM, and then let's try and think a little bit more about how we're using our self-destructs at that proper, hey, the team is engaged timing. So that's where I'd go. I hope this made sense to you. I hope you felt like there was some value that you got out of this. Do you have questions? Do you have stuff where you're like, hey, maybe you don't quite follow the takeaways that we're setting up here, or maybe you're in a place where, hey, I got this, but I need more on this. Do you have anything question wise?
I think for the most part, I understand.
Okay.
Um, I think if maybe we could talk just for a moment more on self-destruct usage.
Sure.
So would you say that like maybe if I had waited, like 2 to 4 seconds for our monkey to jump in
Mhm.
and kind of force the like decision there, like, and then thrown the bomb in, would that have worked at that end there? Like what
10
So
pretty
seconds
much.
remaining.
I would actually say 4 seconds would have been too long. So if we look at this, like obviously we're gonna get the hindsight of what actually happened here.
10 seconds
But
remaining.
assuming that your monkey jumped at the same time, and that's not necessarily a safe assumption because I'm sure your monkey saw the ult and went, oh shoot, it's go time. But assuming we let our monkey jump at his own timing, and his own timing had still been this is potentially okay. Oh, and we got a nice nade there. That's very cool. So like we still got value out of this. This team was going to turn in to sort of fight this monkey. Let me put it this way: is this where your monkey should be?
I'm not really sure our monkey knows where he even is right now.
Okay, your monkey rushed his engage because you threw this self-destruct. Like, I don't
Okay.
think your monkey is likely to have jumped here. Now, your Anna, on the other hand, went, oh, well, let me just win real quick and got a nice purple because of that self-destruct.
Yeah.
But your monkey rushed this engage because of the self-destruct, and I'd rather that not happen. And your monkey is right to have been like, I just gotta go in now because our diva has hit the go button. And you did hit the go button, and that's fine in some ways, but I'd really prefer my Winston to earn his way in more normally. You guys are likely to earn your way in appropriately. You already took down their Zarya. They're not really going to be able to contest you going in, but we still want to go, hey, let's earn this in properly. Right now, during your self-destruct, okay, now our McCree is kind of where he wants to be, right? So like the self-destruct
Yeah.
is over, and yes, we got the eliminations, and yes, your McCree got both of those eliminations, and that was a nice team effort between you, Anna, and McCree that got that. So like in hindsight, this looks pretty okay, but this is the sort of thing where this did not have to work out as well as it did effectively, and what you really got out of this
10
was
seconds remaining.
yes, in some ways, hey, these guys are turned, and that's what allows these guys to do this stuff. But your Winston went in a terrible position, and your McCree basically got in safely off of this self-destruct. Did he get the eliminations off the self-destruct? Yes, sort of. Um, and that's why I don't say this can be. I say this can't really be 4 seconds later. Like 4 seconds later is just too much, assuming that any of the rest of this happens the way that it did because 4 seconds later is like that's given the opponents time to potentially trade people back, and that's not what we want. We just want our team to have reasonably gotten most of the way in. Like if we were in a situation where
10 seconds remaining.
our monkey is up here and our McCree has pushed his way to up here, cool. We're effectively engaged enough. Does that sort of make sense? It's totally fine if it
Yeah.
doesn't. Okay. But
No,
right
it does. It's just like kind of a micro timing almost.
It is. Getting engagement timings right is hard. When you're using your ult like this, you're effectively claiming Winston's job and going, no, I'm setting the engagement timing. And he wasn't totally ready for that. Like, it was also a thing where he can more easily go, I'm going to dive up here and start putting pressure from up here. And that makes it easier for McCree to get in. When you throw the self-destruct like this, McCree has to go from choke. He's just having to ignore the tracer that was on him and run in. And it works because he's got a mercy pocket there, but it does some things that we don't particularly like. So again, this time, obviously it worked out. It was not the worst self-destruct in the world. It absolutely had some value in that it did allow your team to rotate in more easily, but you're generally going to get more bang for your buck, more value if you go, hey, a second later when my Winston's in, when my McCree has already rotated halfway in and can threaten more, etc.
Oh,
Um,
yeah, that definitely makes sense.
okay. Okay. And again, it's not like it doesn't have to be like, oh, my self-destruct got a 4K or it's not a good self-destruct. That's absolutely not what we're saying. We just want it to be at a timing that is a little more relevant for the opponents now have to fight us while they use their cooldowns to deal with the self-destruct, or the opponents are actually dealing with the self-destruct while we're fighting them, which is even better.
Mhm.
We sort of
Yeah,
got
so
the
so
former of that.
Winston
Go ahead.
basically wants to dive that top right.
I mean,
I think it just wasn't really clear to me how Winston gets in without some help, just because of everyone there.
oh, sure.
Um, but no, like what you're saying totally makes sense, and definitely uh like could have it maybe would have drawn it out a little bit more,
Mhm.
but at the end of the day, probably is more efficient. So
Oh
I
yeah, it would
definitely
have
see what you're saying.
it would have probably taken you guys a little longer to win this match if you'd done that, but we're talking a couple seconds longer. But it would have
Yeah,
also been higher probability of winning the fight. Now we won the fight,
right.
so it works out. But is it worth like we're gonna delay our engage 2, 3, 4 seconds while Winston figures out how to get in? And yes, that is respawn time ticking on their Zarya in exchange for our win probability going up 15% on the team fight. Well, yeah, I'd say it is. And I'm making up those numbers, but that seems pretty
Yeah.
right.
Really, we're just talking about the difference of like 2 seconds.
You
So
got it.
um, no, it makes sense. So
Yeah.
because
Okay.
he could then be forcing like he could already be pressuring them when I throw the ball.
Exactly. Exactly. And then they're like, oh, shoot, we're already missing a third of our health. We're being zapped by a Winston. We were running away from the Winston, but now if we run away from the Winston, we're running into the bomb. So now we have to run into the
Mhm.
Winston, which means the Winston sends us to spawn.
And
Like,
I think I also changed where I put the bomb. I think I put it closer to where the Ana is, um,
yeah,
so
that's
that
fine.
she can't help them during that time.
Yeah.
And then I don't know. Also forces them to be exact. See, I don't think they had to be right there. I think if they had like positioned properly, like they could have
They,
not gotten aided
they
like
should
that.
have retreated towards their Anna. Like, them cuddling up in the corner was kind of funny.
Yeah, but yeah. So anyway, that is super helpful. And
Okay.
I think I understood pretty much everything else.
Perfect.
Just those things that you don't that like I am maybe habitually doing that I don't like notice like as it's happening.
Yep. And
But
those are the things
when you
that
point
we're
it out, it's clear.
that's what I'm here for. It's a different perspective is way easier to see some stuff. Like it's
Hmm.
very hard to see your own reload mistakes unless someone tells you go look at your reloads. Like that's something you're very unlikely to catch in your own VOD review.
Hmm.
So yeah. Okay. Well, I think we're good here then. I'll go ahead and call it.